with the XWAM. We had been trying to persuade Trimax that they should go along the lines of something without rollers. However, whether the doctor got the back of the mind that we were British and we didn't know what we were talking about or what, I don't know. But all of those that are running XWAMs will know where the shortcomings are with them. It's not the quality of cut that's the issue. It's the fact that you've got big rollers on, and when you're turning, you do get these issues with it. So at that time, we thought, well, we need something big and quick, and this was introduced to us initially by a grower, and we followed it up, went out to the company who, strangely enough, manufacture what they call cucumber harvesters, which are an unusual looking machine. But in fact, it's a bit like our cauliflower and cabbage harvesters. Lay down.
Hey.
What is it, Gia? Sorry, I do apologise.
Well, just let it bite somebody. I'll keep it quiet. Yeah, they make these cucumber harvesters. In actual fact, when you go look at them, they're gherkins, and they harvest them for McDonald's, and they've got a big pickling plant just outside Munich. And it's strange to see all these great big stainless steel vats full of pickled cucumbers ready for McDonald's. So if you've ever had a McDonald's and you've had the salsa and the salad with it, you've had something that's been harvested by a Fleischmann machine. He made these, he sold 2 or 3 in Germany, but we've sort of taken on with it. We're extremely impressed with the standard of build and the quality of the cut. If I had to put my money down when we did the comparison with the first one we saw alongside a Trimax, I would suggest that the quality of cut was better than the Trimax. Now, I'll have to qualify that by saying that I don't know what the standard of the blades were on the Trimax, but our blades were new, so that might make the difference. But it was more than acceptable. It is a fine turf finishing mower. It's not a pasture topper. It won't cut 6 inches of grass and disperse it unless you're going quite slow. To get the best of it, you have to sort of work with it. It's 5 section. I think on the next slide we've got the details of it. It's 5 sections and it's 2.2 meters per. 5 jockey wheels per deck, which gives it extremely good contour following. Not that you get a great deal of contours, but you always get some unevenness as you're approaching old wheelings or headlands and whatever. You get very, very little scalping. But at this time you're using this, obviously you're not cutting it right down to the ground, but it does give it a nice steady ride over the ground at relatively high speed. You've got 6 spindles per deck, which are relatively small blades, but this, I feel, assists the dispersal of the clippings. And during the peak periods of growth in the spring, you're always going to get more grass than you want. You need to get over it quick. You need to get it spread out and picked up. And we think that you get a better job with this than with 90% of the other rotary mowers. Another feature is the braked and steering rear axle, which allows you to turn quite sharply at the headlands. Couple that to the 2-point mounting hitch, gives you a fairly good manoeuvrability. It's got a PTO driven generator, which it doesn't take a great deal of horsepower to drive. Depending on your conditions, you can travel over the ground at relatively high speed, so 10, 12 kilometers per hour. It's got a very high tip speed, which again really assists in the dispersal of all the clippings. We've got a bit of a video somewhere. I think it's not really worth playing it to any great degree, because all you're seeing is, well, you listen to the music and it just shows you a mower going at relatively high speed over the ground. So it's not really a good idea. It goes on for about 2.5 minutes as well. So we'll skip the video, but we're very interested for any of you to show it at some future time. When we're talking about horsepower to drive this, we are looking somewhere in the region of 100 horsepower. They do tell us that they can run it with an 80 horsepower tractor, but I think the forward speed, depending on your grass growth, it doesn't take much to drive it. It's just towing it through the grass that's the issue. So if we're talking about 100 horsepower, you don't need very many revs on a tractor of that size. It's got this 40k generator. You can run your PTO to about 390. So you're not using a lot of fuel. You're not making a lot of noise. It's very economical to drive. We do carry parts for it, but apart from blades and the odd bit here and there, I think we supplied one motor. We haven't had a great deal of issues with them. I think the sum total is people need to see this. Unfortunately, it's such a size that it has to be dismantled before you can ship it around the country. So it's extremely difficult to take this to the end user to show it. It's a day's job and a low loader to get it anywhere. So what we're trying to do is to get people to come to us and have a look at it. It is a high class mower. We have got them out there in the field, and we can usually get people to see them somewhere close, but it's not something at this moment in time that we can actively go and demonstrate ourselves. One of the features on these latest type of electric mowers is that if you do strike something hard and heavy with one of the rotors, it doesn't knock gearbox out, it doesn't knock belts out, it just stops that one motor. And then what you do, you have to stop the whole thing and start it up through the process. So you're not doing any damage. The benefits of having something electric drive like this are immense because you've no gearboxes, you've no belts. So you're not getting that enormous power loss. If you're going to run something like that with gearboxes and belts through every grass, you'd need 140, 150 horsepower without any question. And it'd be dragging your engine back. With this, it just ticks along quite nicely. Sometimes you might not go as fast as you want to, but that depends on how much grass you've got. And when the grass and the conditions are right, you can go at a really high speed. Availability of these machines, because of this pandemic, we had orders for machines that we'd ordered. We couldn't get them, and the turf grass market ran a bit scared initially, understandably so. And so we're just getting the mowers now that we wanted back in the spring. But hey, nobody could understand what was going to happen to us if we were talking like this in January, February, could they? But that's the way it goes. This is just one that's been used in Germany for a bit. This was the video that I was going to show, but you can see it's done a fair bit of work. But overall, very successful so far. Keep your fingers crossed. Got a lot of features that a lot of the other machines haven't got. And one of the things that we like about it is that the quality of cut and the fact that it can go high speed. You don't get any deck bounce because it's got sufficient weight in it and its inherent strength as well. Just makes it a very good high speed finishing mower. To move on to something else that's new that we've launched this year, we launched it last September actually, and this is 100%. It's not of particular interest to the turf grass market because it's just a self-propelled mower, but it's just a step in that direction towards dispensing with fossil fuels. It ain't going to happen in my lifetime, I'm convinced of that, but this is 100% electric mower. It will appeal to certain areas where you need quiet, like universities, National Trust, schools. Lots of local authorities now, Bristol was the first, said last September that they were putting a ban on diesel engines inside the city boundaries from next year, and coincided with us launching this at Soltex, and that brought an enormous number of people onto the stand to look at it. It does work very well. Again, it's fully electric, other than that there is a hydraulic system to operate a side-arm flail mower, and it's just a simple cylinder to lift it up and down, but the rest of it is 100% battery operated, and it's quite successful. It's got some wonderful features in it. I did a YouTube for Smart Talk, Turf Talk, Soltex, and I had to sort of gen up a little bit, and a lot of it is it's far too techie for me. But I thought the things that people wanted to know: will it do a day's work with a battery without a charge? And the answer to that is yes, it will. It'll do under full load. Looking at those conditions, that's not ideal for it. That's a bit tall. But they went into an agricultural field of ryegrass, and they ran it for 6 hours before it cried enough. And when it gets to that point where the discharge is high, the attachment, whatever you're using, shuts off. But you've still got 20% of the battery left, which will allow you to get back to your charging point. So you're not going to be stuck in the middle of a roundabout in downtown Milton Keynes with a flat battery and you can't get home. It will allow that, which I think is quite clever. Now, the other thing that in the past we've always been under the assumption that as the battery discharges, you get a loss of power. We are assured with this, it maintains 100% of the power until it is actually all gone. So even with your 20% that you've got left after your attachment stops, you've still got maximum power and you can get back to the charging point. It charges up to 13 amp plug. So if you're a local authority bod, for instance, or working in a park or around a National Trust property, you wouldn't run in it under full load for 6 hours. You'd certainly might run it for 4.5, 5 hours under full load. But the likelihood of you running the battery flat and having to return back to charging points fairly remote. He reckons it costs, at our calculation, £4.50 a recharge. No diesel, remember, nothing else. You just got a man's time and £4.50 a recharge. It's vibration free. It's very quiet. As you can imagine, the only noise you can hear is the air underneath the deck and the grass clippings clattering against it. So all in all, we reckon it's going to appeal to a wide variety of different aspects and applications. There has been a lot of interest in it. We're still in the process of getting it out there. What we would like, of course, for all circumstances is 4 wheels and 4-wheel drive, but all this is going to come on in the not too distant future. It is only equipped, well, you can see this picture, with a front mounted rotary mower, but there is a weed killer unit that uses hot air. So it's got a gas bottle that heats the air up and you just run it through a big hood and it'll kill weeds. It's got a little sidearm sickle bar hedge cutter, little McConnell thing. And it's got a rotary wire brush, so you can get rid of all your weeds that you can see there in the slabs. It's something that is growing. It's going to be a great deal of interest, and there are a huge number of enquiries for it for these emission-free cities who are told that they've got to reduce the carbon footprint. Watch this space. Anybody wants to see it, just get in touch and we'll come along. Now, something that's more familiar with you is the Vredo, but we have got a variation on the theme with it. Here you can see the pictures of the Agri-Twin, which is the air hopper, which is quite common these days. And then you've got the standard agricultural series. All these are 7.5 centimetre spacings. And it isn't until you get to the Sport series that you come to the ones that will be of serious interest to you. The unique feature, as I'm sure everybody that went over to Vredo with us last year will understand, is the action of the pair of discs and the casting that's mounted. They're mounted to. the seed is dropped into the ground, and we are looking, quite frankly, a test that has been done by Vredo in conjunction with Barenberger, closely together in Holland, a 96% germination. So if you take out your 4% impurities that they put on all the bag, realistically it means that practically every seed is germinating. There is a pneumatic option, but as far as the turfgrass side of the business goes, principally you're looking at these 3 units here. So if we start off with a sports series, which is the big beast on the left, that's 3.5 centimetre spacing. Then the super compact in the middle, that's again 3.5 centimetre, and the compact is the 7.5 centimetre, which has been the norm for 40 years, and it wasn't until they produced this super compact, when you can just see on there the 2 rows of discs, that you get your 3.5 centimetre spacing. Proved very popular. There isn't any question that wherever you go in the world, this is superior to any overseeder that there is out there. A lot of people might say, well, there isn't a great deal of competition, but if you see the number of overseeders that are out there, there are dozens of them. A lot of them are coulter type, Suffolk coulters and trag coulters. They're not necessarily discs, but there are quite a number of discs. And I was looking recently at a Land Pride, which I sold quite a few of in a previous life, and I believe Robert's still got one somewhere. That was a drop seeder, but they have a disc seeder. But it's not in the same class as these. They're wonderfully well made, designed by Hans de Vrie's father, who was a dairy farmer back in the 70s. And just to be boring and tell you the story, it was a big drought, his grass was suffering, and he wanted to overseed it and smartly took without breaking the soil up. Couldn't find a seeder to do it, so he made his own. The nomenclature on these always starts with a 2. And in the 50 years they've been going, this is only the second variant. So that says something about the original design. Because now dairy farming out with the De Vries is non-existent virtually, and they're a full-time manufacturer, principally in seeders, but they also make the biggest tractor in the world, biggest tractor in Europe, and they make slurry injection equipment, which is very big business for them, and spreaders, and they are now coming in. We don't deal with the tractors, but they are now coming into this country in quite a few numbers for spreading the residue from storage farms and biodigesters and the like. They're coming on, but we stick with the seeders, and we're quite happy to do so. This is a picture of the 222. Now you can think of the 222 0.35, so it's series 2, 2 meters 20 wide, 3.5 centimeters. You can also think about it as it's got 2 hoppers, it's got 2 rows of discs. You can sow 2 different sorts of seed, and you can sow those seeds at 2 different depths. So there's a lot of 2's in there for you to remember, but it's easy to do. So if you want to drill to seed ryegrass with an undersowing of something else, you can set each hopper individually, so you can set different seed rates, and you can put it in at 2 different depths.
It's
Left the mic on again.
you want them. You want them. I think they've got them that wrong, but
Yeah, I had the sweet and sour.
balls, these things.
Right, so
I
there's
don't know what that is. Is that just
Yeah.
a
right.
Well,
You have to
keep
get me
that.
another.
That sounds like Andy Allen to me. So that's something to think about. I've got a few hand grenades I'll throw out later on, just to see what sort of reaction we get. But we come on then to imants, which has been a big success as far as we go. And I wanted to show you this. There's been a bit of interest in it in turfgrass terms. Going back into the 60s, which I can remember very well, we went through a period in the mid-60s that was going to revolutionise agriculture, called Plagueless Farming. And it all coincided with ICI's Grumoxone W and Paraquat, or Diquat and Paraquat. I'm sure some people can remember them. And the idea was that you didn't have to bother with ploughing, moldboard ploughing at any rate. What you'd do is just go and spray everything off that was green, and then you'd overseed. It worked to some degree, but the big problem was compaction, and it still is today. The biggest issue we have to deal with is compaction. Any sports turf or agricultural product, compaction is a big thing. If your soil's dead and it's too compacted, you can't grow anything. You need air in there. There were things came along like the paraplough and the flat lift, which worked to some degree, but then we never really progressed with it any further than that. Everybody went back to ploughing. Spaders did come into this country, and Imminent produced one where they are in Holland, Belgian, German border. They've got 2 foot of nice free flowing silt, and they grow a lot of veg, and this is what they built and marketed. Very successful. We've had them over here, and believe me, used properly on the right sort of conditions, the right sort of land, they are a total one pass cultivation process. That we amazed some people in Lincolnshire on some heathland with one. They thought we must have done it twice, and it wasn't until they saw it working they realised to do it once. It won't handle a lot of stone, of course, so if you've got a lot of stone, but if you're in fen country, heathland, silt and free-flowing soils, they are a wonderful piece of kit to operate. They can go in with a subsoiler in front of them, so if you've got enough horsepower, you can subsoil and cultivate in one pass, and then you could sow. You can keep the ground as level as that. A lot of it's down to the operator, of course. But underlying it all, you still, if you're using a moldboard plough, you're still going to have compaction. You can usually tell if you buy a penetrometer and shove it in the ground how deep you've been ploughing for the last X number of years. And you can put as many big plough subsoilers, lifters underneath whatever, you're still going to end up with a compacted layer somewhere. And as an alternative to people having to go in with a subsoiling cultivator, breaking up the ground, then having to bash it flat at great expense with diesel fuel and time and wear and tear on ground, this might be an answer for you. To go in with a shockwave, which is a rotary decompactor that loosens the ground without any surface disturbance. If you've got a lot of ribbons, you could use something like a currow to get rid of all the ribbons, like this chap's doing here. This is a turfgrass grower. He's got some wonderful free flow inside the silt. He won't need to plough any of that. He can just go in, get rid of all his ribbons, either chain or dragmatic flat, and he could direct drill into there with a Vredo, 3.5 centimetres. The growing time is extremely quick. You wouldn't need to do anything other than just do that. Food for thought. If you have a bad infestation of poor annua, you could go into it with this currow with a universe reel and some fine tines on, and you'll pluck out all the poor annua, and in 6 or 8 weeks the ground's recovered, you could harvest. There's just a few ideas to see where we go from there. We do spend a fortune on parts for ploughs and cultivators. We spend a fortune on diesel and time for just men's time driving tractors. It's not going to suit everybody, but there is an awful lot more that could be done with these relatively low cost, low maintenance implements. And I know was one turfgrass farmer said to me when I was talking to him about this, he said, well, yeah, but we get a lot of wheelings, a lot of ruts, but yeah, so nothing's 100% guaranteed, is it? You can't always just get everything you want. But so to just currowing off your ribbons and looking at flat, there's no reason why you couldn't go into that with a disc seeder and regrow it. So over in the east of England and a lot of the sandier soils around Lincolnshire and some of the heathland, the wolds and the like, you could bury your plough, you could put it back in the shed and forget about it. minimal cultivation. It's food for thought. One of the things that I've found with our industry as a whole is that it's the people that operate it that drive our job forward. The farm managers, the owner operators, the growers, the groundsmen, the greenkeepers, even some of the part-time groundsmen that work in bowls clubs, football, and things like that. They're always wanting to push the boundaries. We've got probably one of the best groundsmen in the world who's never happy. He gets depressed because he can't actually grow a perfect crop of grass every time, but he's forever trying to push the boundaries back. He's educated an awful lot of other groundsmen who have gone to work in different countries at big salaries, believe me, because they're really good. And it's these people that drive our job forward. And every time we go to a show, or every time we have a TGA meeting, and you listen to the conversations that are going on around you, it's impressive to listen to people that they're never ever happy. They're always wanting to try something different. And we've got a few machines here that can help you to try and push these boundaries even further. The one I haven't got a picture of, which you saw early on, is the recycling dresser. When you irrigate, you fertilise, you irrigate, you need to do that, obviously. But a lot of the nutrients migrate with the water through the soil. And sometimes, without really disturbing your surface, if you could recycle a lot of those nutrients that are down there, bring them up to the surface, and then just brush them across, it'd probably save you a lot in fertiliser. It's something that somebody ought to try. Unfortunately, the machines that we have that do that are relatively slow. But if you're looking for a perfection at low cost, sort of time, yes, it is important, and you're using fossil fuels, but it's a balance off, it's a trade-off, one against the other. And sooner or later, whether we like it or whether we don't, they're going to ban people using a lot of nitrogen. There ain't any question of that. The Green Brigade are so strong. The tree huggers are stronger than we are presently. And we'll have to see what happens in the future.
Workers should still get 77% of their full pay.
So, thank you for the background there. Now, if anybody's got any points they want to raise while this is still up, please do so. I hope I haven't sent you all to sleep. I've gone on a bit longer than I thought I would do, but there you go. That's the problem of having a mouth to mouth, and that's about it.
Poggy, I've got hundreds.
I'm sure. Go on.
He's muted.
Muted again, Willie.
Why does it do that? Why does it mute me all the time when I'm telling Poggy what I think? The video did really well, even on the netted turf. Did the guy speak? I don't know if the guy spoke to you.
No, he did.
Yeah, the disc shoved the net down and put the seed in.
Ah.
Yeah. I just hope it hasn't shoved it down too much that we don't catch it with a harvester. So theoretically, you can video on top of netted turf.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Yeah. Just let me know when you're going to harvest it, will you, Willie?
Well, you'll be up before then, surely.
Well, I will, but I was thinking if you let me know when you're going to harvest it, I'm going on holiday.
Well, yeah, Scotland. So what we're talking about, 3 years.
Ian, that was fascinating. Really interested. And actually, I learned a lot about Campeys turf care. And during your presentation, I hadn't realised, but we weren't following you on Instagram, and I am now. In terms of now officially following Campeys Turf Care Systems. What a great presentation! Really interesting. And I didn't realise how much I didn't know about what you did. And the other thing I was thinking to myself was, Ian, you should be selling specialist turf equipment that you've missed your vocation, mate. That's what you should be doing, because you do a great job.
Well, we have, because you know where I was before I came to join the Silk Man. Whose face has just appeared on the screen. I better be careful now. I can't slag him off again now, can I?
Hi, Richard.
Yeah, there was lots of stuff that I was interested in trying to bring into the turf market, and it was well, it wasn't a lack of forethought. We did try and get involved with the FF. We still might, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see, but hurry slowly. That's all I can say.
Incredible that you're exporting from lots of countries into lots of countries. 31, I think you said.
Yeah, it's 31 at the last count, and I think it's likely to be more by the end of this year.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Mm.
It's a real success story, and congratulations on a very good presentation. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it's been a privilege to be part of it for the last since I retired. I've become part of the organisation. I blame himself because he didn't employ me 25 years ago. But
I can't think of a better way to spend a Thursday evening.
It's amazing what an octogenarian.
I'm not an octogenarian, Ziggy Todd.
Poggy, when did you retire?
Was it 12 years ago, Richard? 13.
Fuck's sake.
Can I just jump in quickly?
Yeah, go on, Richard.
Can I jump in quickly? Yeah, again, I'll just echo Stephen's comment there that I didn't realise that you were so global. You know, looking at your little pins there all over the world. You know, I'm not really surprised. I've seen the quality of your products. I just wanted to thank Richard for joining us tonight as well and supporting you. So we appreciate your support, Richard. Thank you. And it was interesting looking at like your all-trek machine. One thing I have always said about Campeys is that, yeah, you're always a step ahead of the game. And you know, what a great mower that's going to be for housing estates and those kind of places where the councils can get out earlier in the morning, you know, start mowing at first light instead of all these 8 o'clock curfews and that we see so much of. I can speak for you on the Vredo, you know, having visited the factory on the TGA trip last year. Very, very impressive setup, build quality, outstanding. So, you know, as you know, we have a few on the fleet within the company. Yeah, fantastic range of kit. So brilliant. So well done, Poggy. Really appreciate you taking your time this evening to talk to us. Thank you.
That's no bother. No bother. It's been a pleasure. It always is. But I must thank the two ladies that stood behind me through last week. I think they must have got a bit fed up with me. That will be Julia and Coral. It was not only learning how to do a presentation on Zoom, but also learning a bit more about me iMac as opposed to my previous machine. So it's been a bit fraught. It's work though. It's work.
Well, I mean,